You know, there are some games that they stick with you. Silent Hill 2 is definitely one of those. It's so much more than just a video game. It's this deep, dark dive into the human psyche, a total masterclass in psychological horror that has haunted players for decades. But what if I told you that to really understand it, to unlock its deepest, most poetic secrets, we have to look somewhere totally unexpected? Let's dive in.
So let's start with a classic line from the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. He warned us, whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster. I mean, you hear that and you immediately think of horror, right? It's all about that big struggle against the darkness out there.
But what if the monsters aren't out there? What if they're you? That's the terrifying question Silent Hill 2 just throws right in your face. It takes that classic warning from Nietzsche and turns it completely inside out. Suddenly, the scariest thing in the world isn't some creature in the dark, it's the darkness you're carrying around inside yourself.
Okay, so the setup is just chillingly simple. Our guy, James Sunderland, gets a letter. It's from his wife, Mary. Sounds normal, right? Well, here's the kicker. Mary's been dead for 3 years, and this letter is calling him to their special place, this creepy, fog-covered town called Silent Hill. I mean, talk about a hook. And you know what's wild? This whole setup, the mysterious summons, the gloomy, oppressive town, the journey into a totally fractured psychological state, it's straight out of classic Gothic literature. We're talking Edgar Allan Poe level stuff. So right from the get-go, the game is telling us, hey, we're not just another monster game. This is something deeper, something with real literary roots.
So, that's the big question, isn't it? How does this game get under your skin so effectively? It's not about cheap jump scares. It's this deep, profound dread that stays with you for days, maybe even weeks after you stop playing. The answer? Well, it's a mix of psychology, a bit of philosophy, and something you would never, ever guess.
Okay, get ready for this, because this is where things get really interesting. The key to unlocking Silent Hill 2 lies in the existential poetry of a Turkish writer named Segay Bakırdöven. Yeah, you heard me right. A Japanese video game and Turkish poetry. It sounds like a crazy connection, I know, but trust me, when you see it, it reveals this absolutely beautiful, terrifying poetic structure to James Sunderland's personal hell.
All right, first up, the fog of repression. Let's start by walking right into that iconic fog, because it's so much more than just bad weather. It's pretty much the key to the whole psychological puzzle of the game.
So, to really get the fog, we got to talk about a psychological concept called repression. To put it simply, it's a defense mechanism. It's when your brain takes a thought or a memory that is just too painful or too horrible to deal with, and it shoves it deep, deep down into your unconscious. It's not just forgetting, it's an active process of not remembering. And in Silent Hill, that abstract idea becomes real. It becomes the fog. Think about it. The fog literally makes it impossible to see clearly. It's confusing, it's disorienting, and that is a perfect physical metaphor for what's happening inside James's head. His mind is obscuring the truth about his wife, so the world around him becomes obscured too. He can't see the path forward because, deep down, he's refusing to see the path behind him.
And this is where the poetry just clicks right into place. Segay Bakırdöven wrote about returning from the endless vortex of nihilism. That line, wow, it perfectly describes what it feels like to be James in that fog, doesn't it? Just wandering aimlessly through this gray nothingness. It's not just a physical journey, it's a mental one. He's lost in his own head, completely cut off from meaning or truth.
Okay, so we've got the fog, but what's in the fog? Well, that brings us to the monsters of the psyche. I mean, the creatures in this game are legendary, right? But the reason they're so terrifying is that they aren't just random monsters. They come from somewhere very, very specific.
And here's the absolute core of it all. The monsters aren't real, not in the way you think. They're not external threats. Every single creature James encounters is a physical manifestation of his own inner demons. It's his guilt, his anger, his twisted desires, and, this is key, his deep-seated need to be punished for what he did. He is literally, physically fighting himself. And the big one, of course, is Pyramid Head. This guy is the ultimate symbol. From a Freudian perspective, he's the punishing superego, right? The part of James's mind that knows he did wrong and demands punishment. Philosophically, you could see him as the embodiment of bad conscience, a walking moral debt. But then you get to the poetry, and this is just mind-blowing. In his poem Eternity, Bakırdöven talks about something lurking in the pyramid shadow, an inescapable, almost godlike force of judgment. I mean, come on, that's Pyramid Head, described perfectly.
But James isn't the only person stumbling through the fog. That brings us to our next section, fractured reflections. Because the other people he meets in Silent Hill, they aren't just random NPCs. They're there for a reason, and it's a deeply unsettling one.
Okay, so you have Angela and Eddie. Think of them as broken mirror pieces of James's own soul. Angela is consumed by her past trauma, and she reflects all of James's despair, his hopelessness, even his suicidal thoughts. And then there's Eddie, this guy who's been bullied his whole life until he finally snaps and gets violent. He's a mirror for James's own buried rage and, crucially, his own ability to kill. They aren't separate people so much as they are echoes of the parts of himself he refuses to look at.
And again, the poetry just nails it. Bakırdöven writes, broken mirrors dissolve beyond the ego. Do not weave your webs behind the persona. The broken mirrors, that's Angela and Eddie, right? They reflect the ugly truths that James is hidden behind the persona. That's the fake version of himself he's been showing to the world and to himself to cover up his crime.
So you go through the fog, you fight the monsters, you meet these fractured reflections of yourself, and every single step is leading you to one single inescapable place, the truth. It's time for James to choose his truth.
And here it is, the big one, the memory that all of this, the fog, the monsters, the town, was built to hide. James finds an old videotape, and he's forced to watch and to remember. He didn't just lose his wife, he killed her. He smothered Mary while she was sick in bed. This whole journey wasn't about finding her in Silent Hill, it was about finding this memory inside himself.
But here's the genius part. The game doesn't just tell you what happens next. You decide. The ending you get is based on how you played the game, and each one represents a totally different way of dealing with this horrible truth. Do you help James accept his guilt and try to move on? Do you let him fall into despair and end his own life? Or do you help him run away from it all, embracing a delusion so he can repeat the same mistakes all over again?
This final verse from Bakırdöven just gives me chills. Minds that fall into the crater's rift existed for being, for nothingness, for being. That's exactly where James is at the end. He's standing on the edge of this massive crater, this abyss in his own soul, and he has to choose being, which means accepting the truth and living, or nothingness, denial, death, the void. It's the ultimate existential choice, and it's the culmination of everything he's been through.
So the game leaves us with this final haunting question. When you manage to escape a hell that you yourself created, what have you actually escaped from? Yourself? Silent Hill 2 is so much more than a horror game. It uses monsters and fog and this incredible, unexpected poetry to tell a story about guilt, sure, but more than that, it's about that terrifying, essential journey of confronting yourself. It's an absolute masterpiece that reminds us that sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones staring back at us from the mirror.